Alright, I wanted to discuss this morning while I had the bike apart, snorkeling options for the Polaris Sportsman. I'm not saying that all Polaris Sportsmans are the same, but generally from what I've noticed they're very similar in these years. This is a 2009. I had a lot of issues trying to get everything routed so I could save my front storage, which was what everybody likes in these years. I've got two tubes up top for the intake. The two lower ones are for the belt. Okay, for the intake side of it, I used a Warrior plate. You can find their website. It's snorkelatv.com. This plate worked very well. The screws that came didn't work too good because of the tension of the radiator hose that I used for the intake. So I had to drill them out and replace them with some bolts, and I RTV'd this plate. Then I used this radiator tubing from CarQuest. It kind of follows a similar pattern to where the original tubing went. This one goes up underneath the tank. There is an elbow, a 90-degree elbow right here, and then that cuts across and goes over to another 90-degree elbow right here. And on this side, I had to widen this fuel tank support bracket, slip the tube through that, bring it along the side, and another 90-degree right here. It's a 90-degree nipple with a thread, one end's threaded, and then I just used some grommets in here to help space it out. One thing I would change on the intake side is these holes, I would move up. I would move them so they're almost on top of the S right here. This side, it's not such a big deal, but when you come over to this side, I ran into fuel tank clearance issues here, so I had to put a little piece of rubber in between the elbow and the tank so I wouldn't rub through and get a hole in my tank. Let's see, let's grab a flashlight here. If I can find one that works. There we go. Okay, for the belts, I used rubber adapters like everybody does. A little bit larger one here and a little bit smaller one down on the exhaust side, or I don't know if that's it, that might be the intake side. But I had to use a couple of 45-degree fittings to come up and through that. I don't know if you can see it very well. And then that one comes down just above or just below the other tube. Then once they get under the underside, I just kind of took the time to mock everything up and marked everything where it's supposed to be, and I used just regular PVC primer and glue to try and get this done. And there's where I had to cross over the other side. Here's one other gripe that I have with what I did here is that I was hoping to put power steering on this unit, but because of that tube right there, it's no good. So I'm gonna have to reroute this tube at some point to be able to run power steering on this. I didn't really like a lot of the setups out there that guys were running. The two different options you have are basically to run your intake and belt out wide, which, you know, you run into issues still. And also I've dumped the bike over in a pond before and almost dunked this tube. So if I'm almost dunking this tube, this would have been drowned out. I would have been drowned out. I would have been dead in the water. So I'll get a shot of this side here. And here's where it comes across. I do have a big gun exhaust on here. Didn't really help. I mean, clearance wise it was almost identical to the original. The primaries were a little bit larger on these. One thing I definitely like to have on the Sportsman when running these big tires, I do have portals on here. These are 4-inch Super ATV portals, and I'm running 34-inch tall tires. The steering's manageable right now, but I like a company. I'm sure I can probably source them somewhere. Getting right hand and left hand thread tie rod ends. I'd like to replace them with Heim joints. These, I've got 2 rides and they're already starting to wear out. I'm not saying power steering would be any better as far as wearing out these tie rod ends, but the Heim joint would definitely last a lot longer. Got high lifter arched A-arms, high lifter 2-inch spacer lift. I haven't had any issues with axles except on this side. That's a Rhino axle there. It's getting warranted. The boot split apart with only like 4 or 5 miles on the trail. She spun open. Made it back to the rest of the ride okay though. It was really tight running these Rhino axles in here. I had to actually trim this frame support to be able to fit the axle in all the way. My clearances are really close on this A-arm. You can see where it gets a little bit of grass or weeds and crap like that, it just starts to rub on your axle and your A-arm. Overall, I really like the Sportsman. I really like the storage. I like the features of it. It's got more of a utility aspect to it, which I really like. I'd have, when the bike is down, I have 23 to 24 inches of clearance in the rear and 22 inches of clearance in the front with this setup. Okay, there you go. One thing I'm going to change is this rear storage compartment just will not keep water out. As you can see, from the exhaust over the years, it's kind of warped this panel here, and it always fills with water, so it's kind of useless in my opinion. So I'm going to be taking this out, and I'm going to be mounting a second winch in the rear. I'm running a big gun exhaust, which it's out for warranty right now as well. The mounts never really lined up just right, and they broke. So they said that they'd fix that for me, which I'll be posting a video here soon. Sounds really good. These 800s have a tendency to have a little bit of whine to them in the high RPM. This full exhaust, you know, it gives it a nice low grunt. Have a little custom shifter on here. My power commander I located all the way up here, which I'm really glad I did after as much as this thing goes in the water. Mounting it up here gives me the ability to tune on the fly and keep an eye on things. But one other thing I had an issue with on here is this map sensor here. The wires were rubbing on it, and I guess it's pretty common. But the fix for this plug, it's like $150 just to be able to fix that. And that's not even the sensor itself, it's just the plug of the wires in it. I was able to repair it for this last ride, and it worked all right. But there it is. There's the beast. If you guys like this video and want to see other things on this rig, or other things that you see in the videos, just like, comment, share, and I'll get back to you. Thanks.